Neil from Essex here with an equipment attachment video for you today. We're hitting an exciting milestone here shortly. We're about to have our first YouTube video cross 1 million views. It was shot 7 years ago on the topic of the 5 worst tractor attachments. Today we're going to walk around the lot out here today. We're going to look at that original list of 5 units and see how the sales of those have held up over the last several years, and look at today's market and give you a new list of the 5 worst tractor attachments.
Essex, a helping hand with your land.
So if we go back to our original video from 7 years ago, and we look at that list of 5 pieces of equipment, we came up with those by doing a Facebook poll. Throw it up online in a bunch of Facebook groups and allowed people to vote on what their least favorite attachment was. And we came up with a list that I think is a little interesting. 3-point hitch snowblowers, 3-point post hole augers, 3-point backhoes, 3-point quick hitches, and drive-over mower decks. And I think that list is really interesting because with hindsight now, we can look back to this previous video when I had less gray hair and notice here over the last years that the sales of those overall have declined. We would sell less 3-point hitch snowblowers today because we're seeing more people use push boxes and blades and front attached implements with the skid steer couplers on their loaders than what we would have with 3-point hitch implements. The 3-point post hole auger continues to decline in popularity because more of our machines now have third function kits out on that loader, and we're selling a much nicer to use hydraulic alternative in a lot more quantity than the 3-point hitch version. 3-point backhoes continue to decline in sales. Again, most people have recognized by this point that modern backhoes, as strong as what they are, can do damage to tractors when they're mounted onto a 3-point hitch. So you see less of those offered on the market. And 3-point quick hitches we sell less of today too. Now, some of that was artificially driven by multi-unit discounts that Kubota and Land Pride were doing together at the time. And I'll talk about the quick hitch a little bit more because I've found some good uses for it, but we don't sell those quite in the quantity that we used to. And drive-over mower decks have nearly disappeared from our lots. It's a method of putting a deck on and off of a tractor that we continue not to like. We have yet to see a great system that really makes that process work well and reliably, so you don't find a whole lot of them around here. So that was our original list, and now we want to come up with a new one, a new list of problematic tractor attachments that you may not want to invest in, coming up here 7 years later. And how do we do this, right? Well, we want to come up with a list of things today. We ask AI, right? We go to ChatGPT and we type in our query there and we find out what it thinks. And I've got a list here of the top 5 from ChatGPT, and we all know that it gets these things wrong every once in a while, but there's actually some basis to most of what it's put down here for me. So ChatGPT and I have agreed that one of the worst tractor attachments is a 3-point hitch mounted backhoe. Now that's for a handful of reasons. When we mount a backhoe onto a tractor, you need a sturdy mount on there for the backhoe not to break the tractor. A lot of times when you take that 3-point hitch backhoe and you stick it onto that linkage, the linkage could slop around as you're operating that backhoe, and all of that shock, all that weight, and all the power that you can get out of that backhoe can break the 3-point hitch linkage or even break the tractor's transmission housing. It's not an uncommon failure to see. Another thing you're going to want to watch is in terms of performance. 3-point backhoes tend to have small pumps, not very much flow, and not nearly the amount of power that their more capable subframe mounted versions are going to be. So both of us agree 3-point hitch backhoes stay on the list of the worst tractor attachments. Next up on our list of the worst tractor attachments are clamp-on pallet forks. Now, when you go and you put clamp-on pallet forks onto your tractor, these are going to slide over the lip of your bucket, have a big screw in order to tighten them down, and then you have these 2 prongs then on the end of your bucket that you can slide underneath the pallet and lift stuff up and move it around. Now, the thing that you may not realize when you're looking at a set of clamp-on forks is that by taking the load and moving it out to the lip of your bucket and beyond, you can lift very little at that point, sacrificing somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 75% of your lift capacity because of the geometry of where you've moved that load to. Most of our modern tractors now are equipped with skid steer quick couplers, or we can pull the 2 handles, take the bucket off, put pallet forks on back against the tractor, and have much more of that capacity in order to move things around. So there is still a place for these things. That's why we have a set of them here. If you want to slide them onto your bucket to say use as a set of forks to carry carry around brush or stuff in the backyard, throw a couple 2x4s across there, something like that. There's a place for them, but we shouldn't call them pallet forks because when it comes to moving pallets, they are complete rubbish. Next up on our list of the worst tractor attachments is a light-duty, specifically light-duty, rotary tiller. And the reason here that ChatGPT has given us that these are bad is because of their light weight, you could end up with some shallow and uneven tillage because they tend to bounce across the ground. You'll get frequent gearbox failures and poor parts support. I think what this is really referring to here is the tillers that would have gotten shipped in from overseas, from some third world countries over the years that would have landed here at very low price points with poor parts support and questionable build quality. More people have kind of become aware that this has happened, and in my experience here have become a little bit more selective in what they've been choosing. So we're tending not to see the same amount of that low quality equipment sold today as what would have been years ago. I think you've also seen a little bit too, some of these mid-tier or higher end manufacturers kind of realizing that there's more alternatives out there in the market than what there may have been years ago. And so the premium that you used to have to pay to get a quality piece of equipment isn't there quite in the way that it used to be. Next up on our list of the worst tractor attachments from ChatGPT is post hole diggers with dull augers. This one is funny. The two of us agree here. 3-point post hole diggers are not fun to use, but this description is just filled with the best AI slop out there. There's inefficient digging with dull, low quality bits. There's high operator frustration. It takes multiple passes and lots of down pressure. There's twisted driveline wrists from stuck auger bits that can shear the bolts or twist the PTO shafts, and upgrades are needed when quality bits and hydraulic downforce systems have to be added. We do sell less 3-point hitch post hole augers, and the primary reason that I haven't cared for them much is because they're a real pain to muscle on the back of a tractor. But anymore, because we see so many machines with front hydraulics and skid steer quick couplers on them anymore, we tend to sell the hydraulic version of these, which are much, much nicer to use. The hydraulic alternative allows you to have down pressure from using your loader to push the bit down into the ground, and it's also reversible. If you hang it up on a rock or something underground, you can just screw it backwards in order to pull it out again, where a PTO-driven version can only go one direction. So ChatGPT is absolutely right. Post hole diggers are miserable to use, but it could come up with a better description. And our final item on ChatGPT's list of the worst tractor attachments is a quick attach snow blade, but specifically one without trip springs. Now what it's referring to here is a trip edge or a trip moldboard that allows that blade in order to release if it hits something, be it a manhole cover or a curb, and that keeps it from damaging the implement or damaging your tractor, right? Because something has to give if you hit something. Now, interestingly, as years have gone by, we do still sell some of these to people with really long driveways that want to be able to put an angling blade on their front loader and drive long distances. But we sell more and more of these push boxes all the time, and the two attachments excel in different areas. That blade is great when you're going to do a straight long shot, but if you have a lot of curves and stuff that you need to follow, they're difficult to steer because they sit so far out in front of your tractor. The snow load is always pushing your machine around, and so it is difficult in order to make the long passes that you might have in mind. We do tend to sell, though, more of these push boxes because they're going to allow you to collect a lot of snow in front of that loader and then sweep it off the side of your driveway. And you can also put on things like this pullback edge that allows you to clean up against garage doors and buildings, which are really challenging to do with a blade. So that's an update on the list of the worst tractor attachments. Interesting to see how my list from years ago has aged as time has gone on and to see where things are headed here in the future. The one fascinating thing about this industry is that there is an attachment for just about every chore that you could have. And I love looking at the fine details of these things and how different attachments can be purpose-built for what you're out and doing. And as years have gone by, we're, addressing these things more efficiently with better equipment and better attachments, and it's cool to see how things progress over time, right? 3-point post augers used to be on the back of so many tractors and they were everywhere, and here we are today recognizing how far technology and innovation has come with much better solutions today. So if you're shopping for an attachment and we can help, if you got parts and service needs for a machine you've already got, give us a call at Messick's. We're available at 800-222-3373 or online at Messicks.com. Can't provide. You have a twisted driveline risk, and stuck augers can shear Come on. Okay.